Here are some things to know about second mortgages, including HELOCs, HELOANs, HE financing, HE whatever they want to call it. So HELOC stands for Home Equity Line of Credit. HELOAN stands for Home Equity Loan. Now, if you're getting one of these home equity loans after you've already had a first, it will not change your first mortgage payment whatsoever. Your interest rate, your taxes, insurance, whatever that payment is, all that mortgage will stay the same. This is going to be in addition to that first mortgage. So HELOANs are pretty simple. They're just like first mortgages, but they go behind your first. They are fixed. They have a specific term on them, typically 30, 20, or 15 years, and the payment's going to be the same for the entire time, and you get all the money up front, just like a regular mortgage. Home equity loans are a little bit different. They're kind of like credit cards against your house. So the balance can go up, the balance can go down. Another thing that's unique about them is that they have adjustable rates. So as the market changes, your interest rate could change on your HELOC. Now, the two most important things to consider when you're getting a HELOC is the limit and the minimum draw amount. So the limit is the amount that you are allowed to draw throughout the life of the HELOC. So if you get a HELOC for $100,000 and you only need 20 of it now, you now have $80,000 left that you could draw at a later time. The limit does not change throughout the entire life of the HELOC. If you need more money on the HELOC, you would have to refinance it into a new HELOC. And the second thing is the minimum initial draw. They require you to take a draw at closing from your limit amount. That's because the way they have their loans set up, sometimes that's the only way they can get paid on these loans and nobody wants to work for free. There are some investors out there that won't require you to take any money out at closing, but they're few and far between and you have to know where to find them. If there is a minimum draw amount, that usually means that there's also going to be a minimum holding period along with that. So for instance, it could just be you make one payment, then you can pay back your line and make it a zero balance on your HELOC. Sometimes you have to wait 2, 3, or even 6 months before you're allowed to pay down your balance. Now, when I say allowed to, you can do that, but there's just penalties that come with it. For instance, there is a lender that I know of that if you pay down your balance within the first 6 months, they will change your total limit to whatever your balance is during that 6 months. Now, HELOCs also have a draw period and a repayment period. Now, the draw period is typically the first 10 years where you can fluctuate the balance up and down. You want to take money out to renovations, you want to pay it down over time, whatever you want to do, you can fluctuate within your limit amount. And after having 10 years of your draw period, you'll then have a 20-year repayment period where you won't be able to draw any further on your HELOC. You'll just be repaying it over 20 years, much like a regular mortgage. Now, HELOCs are typically adjustable rate loans. We mentioned HELOANs are typically fixed. HELOCs are adjustable. So here's how these adjustables work. They're always going to be based on some type of index. It could be US Prime, could be Wall Street Journal, whatever it is, they're going to list what index they're basing it off of. This index is public knowledge. You can go look it up what it is. You can usually just Google it, say, hey, what's US Prime today? And it will tell you what it is. Now, prime isn't your specific interest rate. It's just what your rate is based off of, because these loans also come with what's called margin. The margin is kind of your loan level pricing adjustments or your adjustments based on your scenario. For instance, if you have a lower credit score, you're pulling a larger limit out, they're going to have a larger margin on you, versus if you have an excellent credit score, you're not taking as large of a line, you're going to have a lower margin. The way this plays into your interest rate is when you add those two together, that's your interest rate. So you'll take the prime rate and the margin rate and you put them together, and that's your specific interest rate. Now, prime rates do adjust monthly, and typically HELOCs will adjust their rates monthly as well. As the prime rate adjusts, your rate will adjust plus your margin as well. If your margin was 2, the current prime rate's 8.5, that means your rate is 10.5%. If next month the prime rate comes out, it's only 8%, your rate will only be 10%. You need to be very careful and not just compare the interest rate. You need to look at what the prime is and what the margin is. With these adjustables, one thing that's very important to keep in mind is the cap and the floor. And just like it sounds, that's the maximum your rate can be and the minimum your rate could be. So the cap is the highest your rate could ever be, and the floor is the minimum your rate could ever be. So for instance, if your floor is 6.99 and the current going rate is 8.5 and you don't have any margin, so it's prime is 8.5, no margin, rates drop to 6%, your rate could not go below the floor that you initially signed up for. Now, it works in the exact opposite as well. If your cap is 15% and rates go up to 20, the max rate you're ever going to pay is 15%. One other thing that's not quite as important, but you should be aware of, is the adjustment cap. The adjustment cap means that how much can your rate change in one specific period. So if rates went through the roof, say they're at 8.5 now, next month they jump to 12, but your adjustment cap is only 0.5%, your next month will only be 9%. And again, it does work the opposite way as well. So if rates went to the floor, next month rates are at 3%, you're starting at 8.5%, next month you'll only be paying at 8%. So that's some of the basics about HELOCs, HELOANs, second mortgages. If you guys have any questions, leave a comment below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this. If you have any questions about your specific scenario, you can comment below, but if it's private, you want to keep it private, feel free to message me. We can talk about it, work through it together.